Welcome back. Today's video, I'd like to talk about Carrera slot car tires and what can happen to them through time. Of course, there's always a known issue on that the tires can melt or they can harden under certain conditions or over certain time or certain models of the tires. I just like to share my data with you. Now, granted, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a slot car expert, I'm far from it, but I have gained quite a bit of knowledge over the years on slot cars, and I'd like to share that with you. And if I, at the very least, I could share my findings with you, even if it's not scientific. I just want to share what I can to help you make decisions if you have thoughts about getting into Carrera slot cars, you want to pick up a few, you want to get started with the Carrera system. I can let you know what I've experienced and you could take it from there, because this was one of the issues that when I was researching and getting into this hobby of 1/32 scale, of the larger scale, that the Carrera tires were an issue. And so here's my findings with them. I just want to get into it saying most of my Carrera collection, and I have over 200 at this point, and most of them are kept in cases. I take them out and stretch them out at least once a year. I like to get to every car at least once a year, some much more often, like these I call my house cars. But I'll stretch out the cars, not to set lap records, but I just want to make sure they're running well, and that their tires are okay and everything's okay. And so far, so good. And I've had them, I would say, out of the 200 plus, I would say 75% have been with me for more than 3 years. So they have a history here, and most are kept in climate control much of the time, all the time. I live in Florida, where it gets very hot most of the year, can get into the 90s, but they're mainly living in this room, and it's temperature controlled. We have the temperature set in the low 70s much of the time, and so life is ideal for them. I can just say, though, that sometimes life does get in the way of your plans. And last summer, in our house, we discovered we had termites up in the attic. And so it came to the point where we needed to have the house tented. I throw a big tent over the house. You have to turn off your AC, open up all your windows. Now, it was in August of last year, of 2023, which is probably the hottest summer on record. And it was brutally hot in the 90s. And here I had to open the windows in this room and let the humidity and everything in for the first time for 2 or 3 days. And I was very, very concerned about what would happen to my tires on not just the Carrera, but on all the cars I have. And I thought about taking them with us. We stayed with our son, and I thought, well, maybe I'll take my collection with me and save them from those elements of the not only the heat, humidity, but the poisonous chemicals that are being injected throughout the house for all that time, for a solid day. And there was just so much to take with us. We had to deal with food and things that I couldn't. It would have taken more trips over, more places to store the collection in his house, and I didn't want to do that as much as I thought I should. But I said, okay, at least it'll give me a chance to figure out what happens with these cars. I know some people keep them in their basements or the garages, and it gets hot and humid, and so they know firsthand also what it's like to have a car that lives there all the time, not just for 2 or 3 days. So these cars experienced that, and I had no issues with tires melting or anything through that point. At that point, most of the cars have been here for 2 or 3 years, and no issues. Everything was running fine. I never put chemicals on any of my tires, just so you know that. I cleaned them with with some tape, some masking tape, rolling them over the tape. And in the beginning, I was using a little bit water, damp rags and stuff. But I've stopped doing that. The tape is good enough. I don't even want to introduce water onto the tires, and I don't know why I did in the first place. But I got lucky because none of those cars had issues with their tires. But so after the tenting, when we came back, like I had said, most of my Carrera cars are in their cases. I have other brands that I keep out of the cases, like these Revo slots. I keep them out of their cases because they're just boxes and you can't even really see them. So they're in these containers that I have. Ironically, none of these were with me last August. I didn't have any Revo slots. Now I have 8, and there's like 3 more on the way, and probably more to come after that. These are I'm obsessed with them now, but luckily these were not here through the August issue. So, well, as for the Carrera, most of them in the boxes except for the house cars. Now, after we got back, I wanted to check on my tires. I gave it a month, and just to see how the tires are doing on the cars, I went through every car that's in the case, took them out, ran around the track, inspected the tires very carefully, and everything was fine. Every single one of these cars in their cases was fine. Now, granted, that was just 3 days, but that's, like I had said, poisonous chemicals being injected in here, the hottest of humid conditions possible, and those cars in the containers were fine. Now, these house cars were a little different story. And I keep them in these hard plastic containers, and now out of all these cars, all of them were fine except for these 2. And now I do need to say that every single Carrera car, virtually every single one, except for maybe something new that I haven't, that has just come in, every single one has Paul Gauge tires, urethane tires on the back. And all the original Carrera front tires are still there on all those cars, but they're all Paul Gauge urethanes on the back. And let me just deviate from what I was saying. Now, this car just came in, and of course, it didn't have a case. It was an older car that I just purchased that didn't come with a case. So I have extra cases available for this purpose, and I make up my own labels. And I think Carrera should put the number on here. So when I do make up my labels, I do tell a little bit of the story. This is actually a Carrera Evolution car, which is analog. So I have a chip installed. So it's really this number of analog, the Evolution series, but with the chip, it's actually equivalent to this as a digital number. So I have all that information there. When I do take off the tires, now this one, I need to get some Paul Gauge tires for, and they'll be coming. But when I take off the original tires, I put them in a little baggie in the back here. It fits perfectly in there with extra mirrors. And I've done that with all my other cars. So that's well kept in there. And all the original Carrera tires in the back of those cases, in the back of every single one of those cases, is fine. There's been no melt, no nothing. They've experienced everything happened here, and they're fine too. Now, getting back to these also have Paul Gauge urethanes on the back, but on the front, they have the Carrera, and they were all fine, except these 2. Now, these were not in this position, of this little case. These were not in that position, so I can't say it came in like this or whatever. I forget where they were. They may not have been in the same case together, but just these 2 had the issues where they did melt. And I discovered that about a month after the tenting. And these 2 had melted and I was able to take the tires off, and I have these old Skelectric. These are rear Skelectric tires for, I think it was, I can't remember which Skelectric cars, but they fit well. And it's a little smaller there, but it works decently on it. And so I just replaced those with Skelectric tires. Excuse me. So, and that solved the issue with that. None of the other tires here have melted. I did have them in this hard shelled kind of case that locks in on all four corners. But however, I did not do that. An oversight on my part before we left the house for the tenting. I didn't snap those corners on tightly, so they were just sitting on top here like this and underneath the track in both cases. So whatever poison got in, but the cars still run great and everything was good except for those two. So 3 days of high humidity or poisonous chemicals took down those tires. Now, I have, like I had said, that all the original Carrera tires are in the backs of their cases. When it comes to the house cars, I don't have cases for them, and that's how I get the extra cases to use for these cars that come in that don't have their own cases. I have these all had their original cases, so now they're extra. So with them not having cases, I have no place to put the tires, obviously, in the back, like in the back of there. So I keep them in a bag, and I just put them in these little baggies. And so these are all the original tires from these cars, the original Carrera tires. And I can tell you, I did experience quite a bit of melting in the tires here. I don't know if you could see that. It could be due to the baggie that they're in. I don't know. It could be due to that this was all just in a big plastic bag together under the track, not sealed, not in any kind of harder plastic, but just a regular, like, big plastic baggie. But they definitely experienced melting. Nothing hardened, but just they're melting. And this is okay because I should have actually just thrown these away, but I save everything. I thought, well, at some point maybe I might make some kind of tire wall or something. They might have some use for something if I ever want to go back and put the original tires back on. So I never threw anything away. So I'm not saddened over that, but I just want to let you know this is what's happened to tires that have not been in a box. And the ones in the boxes are in these little plastic baggies too. I usually curl them up and stick them back in there, slide that door closed, but they've all got the lids on, so I don't know if that's got something to do with it or not. Like I had said, I'm not a scientist, but I just want to show you my findings and you can take it from there. Now, out of all the cars I've ever purchased from Carrera, I've never, ever had an issue. Now, some of these cars go back 15 or more years. There's never been an issue with a car arriving and the tires are melted or starting to melt. I've never had a retailer say to me, "Oh, we have your order, but unfortunately, the car's tires have melted," or whatever. We need to replace them, or we'll discount. We never had an issue. All the tires have come in perfectly, and these are cars that have been stored for 10, 15 years, and they're just fine. And from multiple sources, I think I've purchased Carrera cars from every Carrera dealer in the world, I think. Well, maybe not Australia or some in Germany, but a couple in Germany and Canada and every one in the United States. I could say I've purchased a Carrera car from and never had an issue with tires that have been coming new from the case or from anywhere else from that matter. Never had a car come in with tires that are melted. So there's that. So I just wanted to share this with you. And you can take this data for what it's worth. We'll see how it goes in the future, but from now I can just report that if you are into Carrera cars, slot cars, do not let the tire issue stop you, because if you keep it in an air-conditioned area, I think you'll be fine. I can't say that this is the case in all cases, but these are just my findings. And if anyone has anything to say about this, please add it in the comments and let me know what you think. All right. Thanks for watching.